Hello and welcome to Cricket House Gaming. Here at Cricket House Gaming, we like to explore the gameplay of simulation games, usually through a series of Let's Plays. In this episode, we will continue to explore the gameplay of Democracy 4. Democracy 4 is a political sim that lets you choose the role of a world leader and govern a country. If this sounds like something you'd be interested in, be sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here, welcome, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so you won't miss any future episodes. Today, we're going to continue to explore our gameplay as Prime Minister of Australia. We are presently in the third year as Prime Minister of Australia. This should be an election year, as the Prime Minister of Australia only serves 3 terms. When I hit that button, we will be entering the first term of our third year as the Prime Minister of Australia. Let's see how we did. Antisocial behavior. Crime statisticians are pleased to report the extent of antisocial behavior in our nation has fallen considerably and is no longer a major cause of crime. Crime is down. Expand public rights of way. There's an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. As we build more houses in our country, once open land that was used by walkers and hikers is increasingly becoming closed off and considered private property. Socialist campaigners have protested these changes and are calling for expansion of protected public rights of way. Take no action. Private land is private land, regardless of whether it is farmland, industrial land, or somebody's garden or yard. The idea that because people have taken a certain path for many years that they should continue to have the right to trespass on private property is ridiculous. There are plenty of public roads and parks people can make use of. Expand rights of way. So much of our country is now private property that people's access to open countryside is worryingly restricted. Does it really matter to a farmer if a few walkers and hikers occasionally cross their land on designated footpath? We should ensure that open countryside and footpaths are easily accessible to everyone. We are taking no action. The farmers are happy at +8%. The socialists are unhappy at -6%. Obesity. There is a worrying trend of obesity amongst our citizens, which will shorten people's lifespan and increase health costs. Obesity. Too many of our citizens are eating badly, possibly due to an abundance of junk food at cheap prices. This will have knock-on effects for lifespan and for healthcare costs. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation. Doctor strike on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. The government is currently running a budget deficit of 14.37 billion Australian dollars. We should take steps to reduce this. Polls report. Your approval rating is disappointing. If we are to believe the polls, you will get just 18% of the vote. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be passable. Security briefing. The Environmental Alliance is criticizing government policies in online forums. Right now, we only have to be concerned about the Liberal League and the Environmental Alliance, which have a threat assessment of 1. Our security effectiveness is poor. We have 13 political capital to spend. Healthcare vouchers, a measure designed to encourage the growth of private healthcare while still enabling everyone to access it. Healthcare vouchers are issued by the state to everyone, but can then only be spent in the private sector on healthcare. This is a different approach to pure state healthcare because with healthcare vouchers, the hospitals are privately run and the medical staff are no longer state employees. This will address the doctor strike. We'll implement this policy. We're going to increase this, but we're going to keep this in the medium range. Let's apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our first term of our third year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering our second term of our third year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's see how we did. Poverty is down. Crime is down. Food scandal. Undercover TV reporters have released shocking footage of conditions in a number of slaughterhouses in our country. Although few people are unaware that cheap meat has its cost, this brings the reality of how our food is being produced sharply into focus. Campaigners for organic food and veganism are calling it a turning point in public opinion on this issue. Farmers are unhappy by -5%. Everyone is unhappy at -5%. And plant-based diets have increased at +13%. Campaign speeches are available. The election draws near, and you may want to take some time out from government to hold a campaign rally and deliver a speech. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation, tax evasion on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. There is a budget deficit of 26.13 billion Australian dollars. We need to reduce spending or raise taxes. Polls report. Your approval rating is disappointing. If we believe the polls, you should get just 18% of the vote. Cabinet report. The loyalty of our ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be passable. Security briefing. the Liberal League has been criticizing government policy on the radio. The Liberal League's threat assessment has just jumped to a 3. The Sustainability Trust threat assessment is a 1. The Environmental Alliance threat assessment is a 1 as well. Let us give a campaign speech. The Conservative happiness is 35%. Let's give a speech for them. The Self-Employed happiness level is a 40%. We'll give a speech for them. And the Trade Unionist happiness with us is 29%. Let's give a speech. The Trade Unionists did not like our speech at the beginning, but it seemed to improve. The Self-Employed are happy with the speech. And the Conservatives are not happy with this speech. The Trade Unionists' opinion of us goes down at -5%, and the Self-Employed opinion of us goes up at +10%. The Conservatives' views of us goes up at +10%, and the Liberals' views of us go down at -5%. We have 4 political capital to spend. Health food subsidies, a tax initiative that makes healthy foods such as fruits and vegetables cheaper than the higher fat or higher sugar foods, seen as an incentive to eat well rather than a punishment for eating badly, and thus less punitive on the poor than a fat tax. This is 50% popular with the vote. We are trying to lower the obesity issue in our country. We will use 1 political capital, increase this slightly. We will apply the changes. We have 3 political capital to spend. National Business Council. The establishment of a National Business Council gives a strong voice to business investment, ensures that the needs of business, both big and small, are taken into account. The council serves as a way to promote capitalism and enterprise and get across the message that the corporate world has much to offer, creates employment and prosperity. This is 100% popular with the vote. This will increase our GDP. This will increase capitalism. This will lower socialism. We will implement this policy. We will increase this slightly, but keep it in the medium range to not overspend. We will apply the changes. We have 1 political capital to spend. Organized crime. Large organized gangs of serious criminals are now targeting our country. We do not have the resources to deal with them, and they are causing serious problems, including higher level of street crime and violent crime, as well as supplying drugs and guns. Witness protection program. What good is catching a criminal if the witnesses to the crime disappear forever? Protecting these witnesses is of utmost importance for a working justice system, and the better it is, the more criminals get convicted and the more witnesses come forward if they see a crime. This is 50% popular with the vote. We will spend 1 political capital and increase this slightly. Let us apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our 2nd term of our 3rd year as Australian Prime Minister. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the 3rd term of our 3rd year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's see how we did. The GDP is down. Crime is down. Poverty is down. Freedom of information. There is an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. There have been calls for a law to increase the availability of information held on databases for citizens without their knowledge. These include records held by private medical companies, insurance companies, and debt collection agencies, as well as information held by government departments. Reject proposal. Nobody likes the idea of the government holding information about them, but in some circumstances it needs to be done. The government isn't out to spy on everyone, but passing this law will just make it harder for the intelligence services to keep a watch on serious criminals and terrorists. It will also affect a large number of businesses who have customer databases who will be swamped with yet more bureaucracy. Proposed Freedom Act. It's essential that we have this law passed, as it is one of the checks and balances required in any truly free society. The average law-abiding citizen should not be spied on or monitored by multinational corporations with computed databases and the potential for abuse by government agencies. If citizens cannot view what data is being stored is huge. We are proposing the Freedom Act. The Liberals are happy at +10%. The state employees are unhappy at -7%. Corruption is down at -4%. Campaign speeches are available. The election draws near and you may want to take some time out from government to hold a campaign rally and deliver a speech. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation, technological backwater on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. The government is currently running a budget deficit of 26.67 billion Australian dollars. We should take steps to reduce this. Polls report. Your approval rating is disappointing. If we believe the polls, you would just get 25% of the vote. Election report. Election is drawing near. We currently have 1,031 members of the Holy Justice Alliance. Alliance, the opposition party, has more members than us. The anti-corruption movement has 7,105,944 members. The United Right opposition party has 1,867,681 members. Cabinet report. The loyalty of your ministers can best be described as loyal. Their effectiveness is generally considered to be passable. Intelligence services report growing concern about a relatively small extremist religious organization known as Angels of Heavenly Justice. We should keep a close eye on their activities. The Angels of Heavenly Justice has a membership of 29. Their threat assessment is a 3. Liberal League's membership is down, but the threat assessment is still a 3. The Invisible Hand has 14 members. Their threat assessment is a 2. The Environmental Alliance membership is down. They have a threat assessment of 1. Sustainability Trust's membership has not budged. They have a threat assessment of 1. I'm not going to address this right now. We have 13 political capital to spend. We will give a speech to the Conservative. Their happiness level is a 40%. We will give a speech to the Trade Unionists. Their happiness level is a 26%. And we will give a speech to the Capitalists. Their happiness level is a 48%. Let's give a speech. The Trade Unionists are liking this speech. And the Conservatives are liking this speech as well. The capitalist views of us have gone up 15%. The socialist views of us have gone down 5%. The trade unionist views of us have gone up plus 10%. The self-employed views of us have gone down negative 15%. The conservatives views of us have gone up 15%. The liberals view of us has gone down at 5%. We have 4 political capital to spend. Toll roads. Toll roads charge motorists to use specific roads, normally major highways. This is a great example of directly applying market forces by only charging those who use a particular route for the construction and maintenance of that route. Motorists tend to see this as just another form of taxation, whereas commuters appreciate not being charged for roads they seldom use. This is 83% popular with the votes. We are trying to raise some money for our government as we have been spending a little bit more than I would like. We will use 3 political capital to increase this. We will raise 5.9 million Australian dollars. We will apply the changes. We have 1 political capital to spend. Health food subsidies, a tax initiative that makes healthy foods such as fruits and vegetables cheaper than the higher fat or high sugar foods, seen as an incentive to eat well rather than a punishment for eating badly, and thus less punitive on the poor than a fat tax. This is 50% popular with the vote. We are addressing the obesity issue of our citizens. We will use 1 political capital to increase this to maximum. We'll apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our 3rd term of our 3rd year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's hit that button. We will now be entering the 4th term of our 3rd year as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's see how we did. Crime is down. Safeguard oil supplies. There's an urgent policy question that requires your immediate attention. Representatives from oil companies based in our country have requested that the government deploy troops overseas at our oil refineries in the Mid-East to protect them from attack by terrorists. The government involved are happy for our troops to be stationed on their soil for this purpose. Send the troops. This is why we have a military, and we should not be afraid to use it. Foreign terrorists need to understand that we are prepared to take determined action to safeguard our oil supplies. This is not a foreign invasion, merely the provision of extra security for vital parts of our industry that happen to be overseas. We do not deploy troops. The oil supply will suffer. Do not deploy troops. It doesn't matter what our motivation is. The symbolism of our troops landing on foreign soil, heavily armed and prepared to use deadly force, is going to cause major backlash in some countries. It is likely this will lead to both problems with international relations and the possibility of increased terrorism. Our troops are not security wing of oil companies, and this is no job for them. We are not deploying troops. The Patriots are unhappy at negative 12%. The Liberals are unhappy at negative 10%. Oil supply is down at negative 17%. Ethnic minorities are happy at plus 10%. And we are seen as a strong leader at negative 10%. Manifest manifesto promises available. The election is upon us, and we might want to take the opportunity to improve our support by making manifesto promises to the electorate. Campaign speeches are available. The election draws near, and you may want to take some time out of government to hold a campaign rally and deliver a speech. New major party donor. Your fundraising efforts have managed to attract a new wealthy individual to donate to your future campaign fund. Make sure you keep this donor happy and pay attention to the groups they sympathize with. If donors become unhappy, there's a chance you will lose their vital financial support. Situation imminent. Our data is showing that we have a potentially bad situation. Doctors strike on our hands if we do not act soon. Budget report. There is a budget deficit of 28.11 billion Australian dollars. We need to reduce spending or raise taxes. Polls report. Polls do not look good. Our last poll put us at 34% of the vote in an election. Election report. Election is drawing near. We currently have 29,490 members in the Holy Justice Alliance. The opposition party has more members than us, from 1,000 and some odd members to 29,000. The anti-corruption movement has 7,299,017 members. The United Right Opposition Party has 1,813,695 members. We have 14 political capital to spend. Perceptions. We are seen as trustworthy, keeping your promises and principles, not doing U-turns on policies, and sticking to manifesto promises, if any, from previous terms, will boost this perception as being trustworthy. Strong leader resignations will negatively impact this, whereas sacking a minister will show strength. Good foreign policies are interpreted as strength, as surviving attacks on your life. Right now, we're seen as a strong leader at -9%. Compassionate policies to help the needy and the poor and the vulnerable will boost this perception, and vice versa. We are going to give a speech to the trade unionists. We are going to give a speech to the self-employed. We're playing both sides of the aisle here, and we'll give a speech to the capitalists. The capitalists like this speech. The trade unionists like this speech very much. And the self-employed like this speech as well. The capitalist views of us has gone up +10%. The socialist views of us have gone down -5%. The trade unionist view of us has gone up +5%. The self-employed view of us has gone up at +10%. We have 5 political capital to spend. Healthcare vouchers, a measure designed to encourage the growth of private healthcare while still enabling everyone to access it. Healthcare vouchers are issued by the state to everyone, but can then only be spent in private sector on healthcare. This is a different approach to pure state healthcare, because with healthcare vouchers, the hospitals are privately run and the medical staff are no longer state employees. This is 100% popular with the vote. We are investing in this to stave off the doctor's strike. We will use 2 political capital, and we will apply the changes. We have 3 political capital to spend. Legalized sex work. Conservatives claim that the legalization of prostitution would mark a severe decline in family values. Others claim that as prostitution is unlikely to disappear, even if illegal, it is better for society and sex workers that the practice is regulated and monitored rather than criminalized. This is 37% popular with the vote, but I am quoting the religious here right now, as I am the leader of the Holy Justice Alliance. We're going to use 3 political capital and lower this, and we will apply the changes. We have 0 political capital to spend, and thus we are at the end of our 4th term of our 3rd year as Prime Minister of Australia. When we hit that button, we shall be going into the election. Let's hit that button. We are presently going into the election, and hopefully we will be re-elected as Prime Minister of Australia. Let's see how we did. Here are the election results. Let us start the count. We were voted out. There was a coalition between the United Right and Anti-Corruption Movement. The Holy Justice Alliance got 39% of the vote. Anti-Corruption Movement got 44.9% of the vote. The United Right got 16.2% of the vote. We have been voted out, and we are going to retire to obscurity, and this is the end of our term as Prime Minister of Australia, and this is the end of our episode. Thank you so much for stopping by our Cricket House. If you like what you saw, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you want to follow our future episodes. It really helps us out. Have a great week. See you soon.